All right, so, like, picture this with me. It's a really peaceful cemetery, birds are chirping, leaves rustling, the whole deal. But someone's got to keep it looking that perfect, right?
It's one of those things you don't really think about, is it? The work that goes on behind the scenes.
Exactly. So today we are diving deep into the world of cemetery attendants.
They're kind of like the unsung heroes of these peaceful places.
Totally. And you guys sent in some fascinating stuff for this deep dive career guides, interview tips, even some insights into how AI is changing the whole job hunting game.
It's wild how much technology is impacting every single field these days.
Isn't it crazy? Okay, so I'm betting when you hear cemetery attendant, you're picturing like mowing lawns, maybe planting some flowers.
Yeah, that's a pretty common assumption.
Right. But get this career guide you sent, cemetery attendant, the complete career guide, totally blew my mind. Turns out these folks do way more than just landscaping. We're talking preparing graves, managing those burial records, like maps to the afterlife.
It's a lot more responsibility than
Yeah.
people realize.
Right. And they even advise funeral directors and interact with grieving families.
That's a huge part of it, actually.
Mm.
The guide said something like 66% of a cemetery attendant's job is customer and personal service.
Wow, 66%. So it's not just about like having a green thumb. You need some serious people skills for this job.
You really do. It takes a ton of empathy and compassion to support people on what might be one of the worst days of their lives.
It's kind of a heavy thought when you really think about it. You're not just maintaining a garden, you're maintaining people's memories.
It's a big responsibility.
It is, and get this, even technology is changing the game in the afterlife. The guide mentioned using GPS to locate graves.
Oh yeah, it's pretty common these days. Makes things much more efficient.
It's like high-tech treasure hunting, but with a lot more respect, obviously.
Definitely. And it's not just GPS. There's software for keeping track of all those burial records, irrigation systems, even digital grave markers.
It's amazing how cemeteries are blending those centuries-old traditions with cutting-edge tech.
It's a delicate balance, that's for sure.
It is. This whole tech integration makes you wonder, how else is this job changing?
Well, that's what's so important about this field lifelong learning. The guide really stressed that. To thrive in this environment, you constantly need to adapt and learn new tech and new methods.
It's true. Makes you wonder what the cemeteries of the future will look like. Robot lawnmowers, holographic memorials.
Right. It's exciting and a little bit unnerving at the same time.
Totally. But hey, at least there's job security. It's not like those jobs are going anywhere. Okay, so we've got cemetery attendants, juggling tradition and tech, but what about moving up in the ranks? Can you go from like cemetery attendant intern to running the whole show?
Well, maybe not CEO, but the career progression outlined in the guide was pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you could start as an entry-level attendant and work your way up to managing a team or even overseeing a whole section of the cemetery.
So you could go from maintaining the grounds to managing the people maintaining the grounds.
Exactly. And that's where those soft skills we talked about become even more crucial. You need serious leadership and interpersonal skills to succeed at that level.
It's like becoming a cemetery whisperer. You've got the experience, the know-how, and the sensitivity to guide everyone through a really tough part of life.
I like that, the cemetery whisperer.
Right. Okay, but let's say you're just starting out and super interested in becoming a cemetery attendant. You send over some really cool info on a platform called RoleCatcher. It's like having a digital career counselor in your pocket.
That's a great way to put it. It's especially helpful in today's job market, which honestly can feel a bit overwhelming.
No kidding. It seems like everyone's fighting for the same jobs. So how can RoleCatcher help someone stand out? What's so special about it?
Well, they have all kinds of tools, from building a killer resume and cover letter to prepping for your interview. They even have this plugin called RoleCatcher that lets you save job postings from different websites all in one place.
Oh, that's handy.
Right. No more messy spreadsheets or losing track of applications. It's a lifesaver.
Okay, so RoleCatcher helps you wrangle all those job postings and put together a killer resume. But then comes the interview, right? That's where things can get kind of scary.
Totally. It's nerve-wracking no matter how much experience you have. But that's where RoleCatcher can really make a difference. They've got this huge database of interview questions. And get this, they even have questions specific to cemetery attendants.
Wait, really? So you can kind of see into the future and know what they're going to ask?
It's the next best thing, right? You can anticipate the questions and practice your answers ahead of time.
So it's not about memorizing answers, it's about understanding what they're looking for.
Exactly. Because remember, every cemetery is different, right?
Yeah.
Every community has its own traditions and expectations. And RoleCatcher helps you tailor your answers to show you get that.
So you're not just looking for a job, you're looking to become a part of this whole community. I like that. Okay, give me an example. What kind of cemetery attendant specific questions are we talking about?
Well, one that stood out to me was, can you describe your experience working with burial plots and grave markers?
Interesting. Seems kind of basic, but I guess it's not enough to just say, yeah, I've mowed a lawn before.
Right. They want to know you understand the layout of a cemetery, the different types of plots and markers, the importance of maintaining them. It's all about respect.
Respect for the physical space, but also for the history and the people those spaces represent. Okay, what else? What other curveballs might they throw at you?
Here's a big one. How do you handle difficult or emotional situations with families during burials or visits?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that goes way beyond just giving directions or answering questions. You're dealing with people at a really vulnerable time.
Exactly. You might encounter grieving family members who are stressed, confused, even angry. And you need to show you can handle those situations with empathy and professionalism.
That takes a special kind of person to stay calm and compassionate under pressure like that.
It really does. And that's what makes this profession so incredible. It's this amazing blend of practical skills, respect for tradition, and a deep understanding of human emotion. You're caring for a place of remembrance, but you're also caring for the people who come to visit.
It's like being a park ranger, a historian, and a grief counselor all rolled into one.
Right. And as we've been talking about, with technology and everything else changing so rapidly, the role of a cemetery attendant is evolving too. Which brings us to a really interesting question.
So we've been talking about tech, but what about this whole shift towards being eco-friendly? Like, how's that going to impact cemeteries?
Oh, that's a good one. It really shows how this job's got to keep up with the times.
Totally. And the career guide even mentioned those biodegradable urns and natural burials getting more popular.
Right. People want to lessen their impact on the planet, even after they're, well, gone.
It's a whole new way of thinking about things. So how does that change what cemetery attendants do?
Well, they might be advising families on those eco-friendly choices, or even managing those natural burial grounds.
Which are totally different from traditional cemeteries, right?
Totally. And think about it as digital memorials get more common, cemetery attendants might be managing those too.
It's like digital upkeep instead of just physical upkeep. That's wild.
It's a pretty big shift. I mean, the core of the job stays the same, but the methods are changing.
It shows you how adaptable this field really is. Who knows what's next?
Seriously. Maybe we'll have cemetery attendants who are experts in sustainable landscaping, digital archiving, grief counseling, all driving around in those little solar-powered carts.
Now that's a visual. It really makes you appreciate the people who do this work. It's not always glamorous, but it's so important.
Absolutely. They help us through some of the toughest moments in life.
Couldn't have said it better myself. To all the cemetery attendants out there, thank you. You create and care for these spaces of peace and remembrance, and that's a really beautiful thing. And for everyone listening, we want to hear from you. What do you think the future holds for cemeteries? Head over to our social media and let us know your thoughts. Until next time, keep those deep dive topics coming.